Do you? Good morning, everyone. Almost afternoon in 1 minute. We are here today for our growth intentions call. This is the call where every week we discuss a different book or a different topic surrounding your personal and professional growth here in the Idea Lab. So welcome, everyone. Just do your quick little who you are, what you do, and what you're looking to grow today today we're talking about productivity. So go ahead, David.
Thank you, Suzanne Taylor King. David George Brooke, that gratitude guy, Seattle, Washington, speaker, coach, and author. And what I'm always looking for is what I'm finally finding all the time, which is just connecting with more like-minded people. So all of Suzanne's community is just a perfect place to do that. So it's every week I feel like I get to meet new people that inspire the heck out of me.
Oh, well, right back at you. Jim, how about you?
Certainly. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for putting this together, Suzanne. It's most appreciated. And I have great respect for the energy that I know that it takes. So thank you. Jim Swan, I'm an executive coach. Excuse me. I live and work from my home on the coast of Maine, where I've been for the last almost 12 years. After many years out in Southern California. Came here to escape and decided that it was the most healthy place I could be. So here I am. And what I'm looking for, I'm always looking for people who allow me to learn more about myself. And that's what I think this group does consistently. So good to be here.
Thank you. My dog was chiming in the background as you were talking, so I muted. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Suzanne. Everybody here knows me, I think. I'm Lisa Prozo. I have my alpaca farm, Andy and Dawn alpacas. It's my Walden Pond for me, right in my own backyard. I don't have to travel to get there. I sell alpacas. I sell alpaca products. I am in the process of working on marketing knowledge, and when I'm doing all that, I discover something else that I want to offer to my customers and friends and new friends that I'm creating with this business. So it's a good thing.
It's wonderful.
And this is a lot of these thoughts are definitely stimulated by these groups that you allow me to join and that you run so beautifully. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, truly, whatever stage in business you're in, I believe that your business, your entrepreneurship, if you would call it, is really a journey in personal growth. And if you allow it to be that, if you allow it to be the growth from the inside out rather than the outside in, you have a much more successful business, something that you have for the long term, something that is more sustainable than, a flash in the pan or, putting a post on social media and expecting to make $1 million. It's definitely not that. So today, I love this book. I love this book so much. I've read it twice. If you haven't grabbed the notes for it, it's under the Growth Intentions tab in the community. The book for this week is called Turning Pro by Steven Pressfield. The big ideas from this book are really about your personal habits, your days, and what is practice that really we're always practicing. Meditation is a practice. Eating healthy is a practice. Drinking enough water is a practice. And that concept that you're always in practice mode can really allow you to go to the next level and turn pro when you commit to those habits. So anyone have any thoughts on the book? Have you read it? Did you read the notes? What do you think?
I haven't addressed the book. I'm sorry. I'm not going to have a lot to offer.
No, that's quite all right.
It's going to be more
Quite all
listening.
right.
Yeah.
I looked at the notes, and that's as far as I've got it. Placed an order for the book, but it hasn't arrived yet.
Oh,
So,
awesome. Well, the thing I like about these philosophers notes done by one of my coaches, I worked with Brian for 3 years in his optimized living program, became a coach through that program and did lots of personal growth with him. I'm still in his membership program, which is interesting. Used to be $10 a month, but now it's all free. So if you enjoyed the format of that philosopher's note or any of the notes that I've given from him, if you go to optimize.me, they're all free. So you no longer have to pay that $10 a month because he's moved on to another bigger project, but he just came back and he's going to be doing more of these notes and still dropping them into the community. So always continued value in that community. One of the things I like about the structure is that he reads a book and he pulls out the 10 big ideas and then references other books in those 10 big ideas. So if you want to go deeper, and I'm just going to go to the first big idea of this book. It's called Shadow Callings. And that is about when you're terrified to embrace your true calling and what you're really passionate about. So you pursue this other thing instead that might seem easier or less work. And I want to just say 110%. As an entrepreneur, we often think, and I think Lisa, you and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. If you have a really big, hairy goal, going for something smaller than that is one of those distractions. It's one of those shadow callings. And that made me go a little bit deeper on that topic when I first read this book. And it all came back to ancient Greek philosophy and their theory on not going for being the greatest version of yourself, whether it's extra weight, something that's beneath you in business, or a relationship that doesn't 110% fuel you and serve you. So let's open the floor and let's talk about shadow callings. Have you ever experienced that? Are you currently struggling with letting some things go that might not have you living up to your highest potential?
Suzanne, I'm not sure if it's quite up that alley, but something that reminds me of it is when you're trying to be the best version of yourself and do the different things that you do. And so I'm big on lists and prioritizing and that type of thing. But sometimes I find it really frustrating when you think here's 10 things you need to do, but you can't do 10. And so you prioritize them, but they all seem like they should be number one. And so how do you decide which one is going to take you where you want to go? And I think it's that it also comes back to that question I ask all the time throughout the day. Is this the most important thing you should be working on? Because it's so easy to get distracted and this shiny object type thing and stuff too. But how you maintain that focus, I think, is always something I'm listening or looking to find better techniques around that to stay focused on one topic.
Yeah. So letting go of distractions really is the key there. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, we focus on what can I sell today? Who can I pitch today? Who can I, onboard today that is going to be that tangible money in your pocket thing, rather than that big overhead view that where you want to be in 3 years or 5 years or 1 year even. And I know for most online entrepreneurs, we tend to go to our client. So we go on social media looking for clients. And in the note, it talks about doing that versus being the philosopher or the curator and having people come to you. That hit home for me as well. One of my passions is community, is creating rooms like this, conversations like this, whether it's 3 people or 300 people. I love that. So bringing people to that is easy. Talking is easy, but I was doing something that felt hard, posting and expecting something to sell. Oh, there's Charlie.
Suzanne,
Go ahead, Jim.
Suzanne, I've been reading some Buddhist teachings on this idea of present moment consciousness
Mhm.
of, and I'm finding it challenging and rewarding at the same time as I become aware of the thing that's in front of me that needs doing. And then at the exclusion of everything else, all of the many distractions, which there are so many,
Yeah.
and remaining focused on that one thing and seeing it through to the end, it's simplifying
Mm.
in a most surprising way. I never anticipated that as an uptake, and so that just resonated a little bit of hearing what you said and what David said just a moment ago.
Yeah.
Focus.
Yeah, simplification. Wow, that just I might even have the tendency to overcomplicate simplification. Like, oh my God, what tool do I need? What
Right.
software do I need? How do I
Right.
So I think that's interesting that really it doesn't have to be that hard. Good morning, Charlie, or afternoon. One of my first conversations that I ever had with Charlie, I said, entrepreneurship isn't easy, but it doesn't have to be hard. And we tend to think it's something outside of us that we need. And I did the same exact thing. I mean, enlisting help of I can't tell you how many professionals looking for that thing over here that I was missing. Okay, I'm not doing that right. I'm not doing that right. And it was none of those things. Charlie, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. I don't
Hey,
see
Charlie.
everybody on the call. Oh, okay. I get it. I'm being a punster.
Yeah.
I had a wonderful conversation with the gratitude guy this week.
Oh, you did? Did you?
Yeah.
He's
Yep,
kind
I'm so
of
happy.
fabulous.
Yeah, well, you and I can work to sort of, anyway, we had a wonderful conversation. It should be, as Humphrey Bogart said, this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship. So we'll see where it goes, etc. Hello, Jim. How are you?
I'm well, Charlie, and you?
Late. I apologize. Lisa. Hello.
Hello.
So I'm the what's next guy. I help people figure out what's next, and then how to get it, and then how to keep it, so they don't have to go through that what's next question for a long time. So that's sort of what I do. So, and we all have Suzanne in common.
Yes.
I've known Suzanne for well over 2 years, and I've
Well,
watched her
thanks for
work.
being here.
And well, I apologize if I'm late.
That's okay. You'll love this book. The notes are in the community under the Growth Intentions tab. It's called Turning Pro by Steven Pressfield. One of the next concepts that I want to ask you guys about and get input on is your habits. Is there a habit right now that needs to go, or one that needs to start? One of the things that deleting negative habits or habits that are detracting from my business or my personal life, or adding good ones, which is easier for you and what would serve you the most. And one of the things I loved about this book is that your habits are what actually helps you turn pro. think about the professional athlete who gets paid millions and millions of dollars per season. They're still practicing every day those habits, those basic skills and drills that make them a good athlete, because it's about those habits. So let's go there. What habit of yours needs to go, and what needs to be inserted in its place? For me, it's scrolling social media and well, it's TikTok. It's yeah.
It's so addictive. Oh my
Oh my
God.
God, I never thought I'd be a 55-year-old woman with a TikTok addiction.
61-year-old man, same. Yeah, you're not alone there.
Okay. So I put some time boundaries
So
on,
is it,
on my
is
time.
it, okay, is it the dopamine effect that you get from it? Is it a car crash that you're observing? What
No,
is it that you're
so-
getting from it?
Great question. And I've been drilling down, trying to be extremely conscious of what it is. And where I have landed on TikTok, and I know other people's experiences will be very different. I know there are those TikToks that are very dopamine driven or elicit dopamine. I am fascinated by TikTok because of the range of learning experiences that I have. I follow art TikTok, I follow history TikTok. And what I find is I'll come across a little segment talking about something that I've never heard of, an architectural dig or a book on history, and I'm screenshotting the book, and then I'm going and doing a dive into that, ordering the book, reading the book. So it's in that regard, I find it very intellectually stimulating. And there's the fun silliness, that stuff is there too. But for me, it's opening me to things that I have otherwise not come across in my life, and I find that very enriching. However, I do have to put time caps on it because an hour goes by just like that.
Yeah.
Jim, as I'm listening to you, did you ever take the assessment Strength Finders, or it's called Clifton Strengths 34? Are you familiar with that?
I just took the baby version of it, the top 5,
Right.
and I'm about convinced to go back and do the rest of them. Yeah,
So did learners show up in your top 5?
top 1, top.
Okay, and that's why you like to go down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm a learner too. And the fact is, learning for the sake of learning excites us. You know, learning something new that we didn't know before, it can give us an edge. It can make us feel better. It can brighten a dark part of our brain that needs some light, whatever it might be, and we grab it and we run with it. But as it was suggested, it could be addictive. We have to control it. You need this kind of set certain time aside to do it.
Yeah.
Because again, I said to somebody the other day, because that's one of my top 5 too, Jim, is if I'm not learning something new every day, I feel I'm falling behind. Now that maybe that's part of my sickness, I don't know, but it's part of me growing and becoming more valuable to my clients, increasing my capacity. But that sometimes I go down rabbit holes, what happened in Mississippi in 1959 that affected the civil rights movement. What the hell's that got to do with what I do for a living and what I'm doing to try to help my clients? But I find it fascinating. I find it interesting. So I share that addiction with you.
Yeah. Me too. Love of learning is my number 2 character strengths. And it always comes up for me that I think the reward I am getting from the rabbit holes or the research or whatever is that, oh, maybe somebody's going to teach me something, that I don't know about, and that topic's going to come up later in conversation with somebody else, and I'm going to be able to be a value, because I know something that other people don't, or that my clients don't. And I had to put a time limit on how much time per week am I going to be doing that, or I would be a hermit. I would.
So that becomes a habit. the limited time, right?
Correct.
You have a specific time that you're, okay.
Yes. And it's typically, for me, the scrolling and the laughter, like when a social media post can elicit laugh out loud, like for real, like, or, ha, oh my God, or that, to me, that's the ultimate stress relief. So if I'm feeling like I need to disconnect and relax, I could meditate, or I could exercise, or go for a walk. And I do all those things. But sometimes you just want to sit down and do nothing. And doing nothing is not scrolling.
Hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
that's an important distinction.
Well, my wife, it's cat videos and dog videos of them playing pianos or doing,
Mhm.
and I hear her chuckling all the time, but the one that really gets me is watching Dr. Pimple Popper. I just
Oh.
don't know why she does this. Well, I say, why? I just fascinated by, I said, you should have been a doctor. You would have had but she's just addicted to this Dr. Pimple Popper. I'll be laying in bed trying to fall asleep, and then I'll hear her on the phone. And I said, oh my God, what an image to go to sleep with. But, hey, listen, I'm married. I'm not letting her go. So I have to tolerate some things,
Well, I will say I love those too, but I thought it was because of my medical background. And I recently came across one that was somebody who had never gotten their teeth cleaned, getting their teeth cleaned. And I was a dental hygienist for more than 20 years. And the video, I watched it 4 times in a row, because the satisfaction that I would have gotten when I was a hygienist, seeing those teeth before and
Mhm.
after, oh my gosh, it made me realize that I missed that aspect of it. And it was
well,
so,
right now you're trying to transform people's businesses,
right.
and the dental hygienist transforms people's smiles.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah. I'm a lot cleaner now than I was then.
You're welcome. Okay.
All right. Any other thoughts on habits that need to go? Go ahead, Charlie.
So, I have my clients take all kinds of different assessments, and I take them too. I want to make sure that they're suitable for adults. So I've realized that one of my shortcomings is execution, follow through with certain things, right? And so I need to develop a habit around follow through. And CRM is not the answer. There's something that prevents me from following through, or I find something else to do instead of doing it. Right now, listen, if I don't get the money in the bank by a certain time, yeah, I'll execute on that. Right. But other things that over time they pile up, and my concern is that I'll develop a reputation for not delivering on time or being there on time. Like, how late was I today? That kind of thing, bothers me. And, and like Jim, I'm trying to get to the bottom of it and say, where did this start? How did this happen?
Yeah. Well, I would argue that it all comes down to what habits you're installing on a daily basis. Are you putting too much in your calendar? Are you not checking your calendar in the morning? I'm guilty of that, planning my week on Sunday, but then Monday morning comes and I didn't really look at what was scheduled, or maybe trying to squeeze in too much. Since I removed things off my calendar, I have more time to prepare and be present for what I am doing, which is hugely valuable. Charlie, you might like, and if I have the notes on this book, I'll share them with you. It's called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. He's pretty much the #1 researcher about habits and stacking habits on top of each other. And it's pretty insightful about daily habits.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. The next big idea in the book is how your day changes, how you're structuring your day. My clients know that I am very interested in how they're structuring their day, especially that morning routine. So if you have structure to your day, everything becomes easier. Let's talk about our daily schedule. I know David has an amazing daily routine. He walks, he does his gratitude practice, he has a journaling practice. Tell us a little bit about how that shifts your day.
Well, thanks for remembering that. The walking is actually later in the day, but the thing that got me is I'm resonating with everything that everybody's talking about, like the rabbit holes and binge watching. Within a year or two ago, I didn't know what binge watching meant. And then I got into one of those series and went, oh, now I see what they're talking about. I got to watch the next one and the next one and so forth.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of discipline. But I think what got me is this constant, I've got my laptop, I've got my phone, I've got my Fitbit watch and all that sort of stuff. Like we all have these electronic things, but being totally tethered to those things where you couldn't even move without, you got to look at it. There's surveys that say you look at your phone 20,000 times a day or some big number. So, but anyway, but I thought one day, I'm letting those things take charge of me. So I thought, I think what I'm going to do, especially before I turn on the computer, which then just rules everything, is I'm going to make what I call this power hour. And I bring it up in my talks too, under the whole self-care module that I talk about. And so it's just that series of that first hour that's totally designed for you before you ever crack a computer. And so for me, it's get up, and even something as small as making my bed and drinking my quart of water to start the day, then going and taking the shower, putting the lattes on, having my vitamins, coming into my office, writing in the gratitude journal. That's 5 or 6 minutes or so, going out into their living room and sitting in the chair, meditating for 10 or 15 minutes, and then 10 minutes of stretching. And there's 45 minutes to an hour. And then I come in and turn on the computer and start my day. But the thing that's so neat about it is your needs are met before you're meeting the needs of other people. And I've always been fascinated by this idea that I especially when I was managing groups of people at Nordstrom and things, and I'd go home some days and I think I didn't get anything accomplished because I was putting out fires all day long. You're answering other people's problems, but never taking care of your agenda. So this way, and then plus I always have my half sheet of yellow papers, got my entire day laid out from the night before. Then your agenda is met and you don't have the same frustration that you will when, oh, that didn't get done, because it's been planned ahead of time. And especially that power hour, and it puts your mind in the right frame of mind. And I just so believe in the power of gratitude and focusing on what you have versus what you don't have. And so you start your day off on such a good note. And there's all these negative things, and the Queen died yesterday and all these things that happen, that the world's coming, but it just sets the tone. And so often you're just setting up a day to be a much better day for yourself.
Agreed.
And I wanted to add something else too. Charlie brought up a point. He and I had a very nice conversation earlier this week. And I think, and you mentioned, Charlie, I think you did, or Jim, CRM, I think it was you, Charlie, but even CRMs. And I always liked the advice I got years ago from somebody. They said, I don't care what your system is, just get one. And it's so simple, but it's true. And if it means writing on your hand, but I've decided that the CRMs and my notes and follow throughs and all these things, and Evernote and OneNote and Close and UpHabit and all these things I've tried, is I think it's an amalgamation of things, because Charlie and I did something the other day that I need to do more often, which is just really smart. Okay, I got to go. We have our time's up. Okay, let's put the next time on the calendar. Boom, it's down there. Here it's week. Now I don't have to think about it now. I'll be talking to him next week and it's done in the Zoom link or whatever. So that's just one piece. I don't think there's one giant solution for all of that, but I think if you have pieces that work together, because it's sometimes like, who's this Suzanne Taylor? How do I know her? Why am I having a Zoom call with her? And it's trying to keep all this stuff straight, but it's so powerful because you meet all these wonderful new people every week. So you want to kind of have those notes available in terms of why you're meeting or why you're having a Zoom and so on.
That's one of the things I learned from hanging around Charlie and hiring him to do a couple things for what's next in my business, being a connection of his, right? So there's certain people in my network, which is big, but there's certain people that not only do they add value to my network and me as a person, but there's things I've learned from them. And I loved learning that from Charlie. He always puts the next date on the calendar. Always, I love that for my clients as well. I think about the clients that work with me every week and don't have a standing appointment with me. I fix that right away. Like, let's pick a time for the next 3 months. We can change it, but let's pick a time. And that
Right.
brought order to my calendar, which in turn, what's it doing? It's bringing order to my clients' calendar. So when you really commit to that, to turning pro, it changes your whole entire day, right? You get up earlier. That's one of the things the book says. When you make that decision, you get up earlier, you go to bed earlier, and there's no time for distractions because your calendar has been scheduled with productivity.
The other thing it does, Suzanne, is that if I said to you, okay, get your calendar out, let's get together next Tuesday. And you say, well, I got some things going. Well, okay, what other date? Well, I'll get. You're basically telling me that you do not see much value in our next conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's
Love
a way
that.
of, it's sort of a litmus test as to, is the energy there to
Mhm.
do it? I had a conversation with a guy yesterday and it went way too long, but at the same, we didn't close the loop. We didn't pick another time, even though I think we were both hungry to continue the conversation, right? So now what I have to do, I got to reach back out to him. I got to set something up. So again, it consumes time that we could apply in different ways. What David described is very efficient, right to the point. He's
Mhm.
got it all lined up. He gets his meds out of the way, gets his exercise, he gets all that stuff out of the way, and he's feeling good that he took care of David. Now it's
Yeah.
time to take care of everybody else, because we all have been blessed with having a profession where we're helping other people, right? But
Yeah.
who's helping us, right? And that's what I'm taking away from what David said. What's that old thing about when you're on the airplane, put your mask on first before you.
Yeah.
So David, that's a perfect tie into what David's saying. What do I need to get out of the way to ensure that I'm going to be of value to other people during the course of the day?
Well, that's that practice of being you. But what's the practice of being Suzanne that I need to practice every day?
Right.
And I'm going to practice it every day in order to have, those days where everything just goes perfectly. Like, it just flowed and you liked your schedule. You liked who you talked to. You got everything done on time. You ate right. You enjoyed nature. Like, everything just went according to your plan. Well, the practice should be to get into the practice of having those days more often. Brian Johnson, he calls them masterpiece days. That's where you have a day that goes exactly how you want your day to go. Work or off, doesn't matter. It's a masterpiece day. You've lived up to your potential. Now, tomorrow, be 1% better than that. And that way you're always competing against yourself, not comparing yourself to other people, which is a huge passion of mine, but I can be pretty tough competition for myself. So let's talk about that habit of your practice. I'm going to read to you the description of practice. To have a practice in, say, yoga, tai chi, calligraphy, is to follow a rigorous prescribed regimen with the intention of elevating the mind and spirit to a higher level. Okay, makes sense. But a practice implies engagement in a ritual. A practice may be defined as dedicated, daily, an exercise of commitment, will, and focused intention aimed on one level at the achievement of mastery in a field, and on a loftier level intended to produce a communion with a power greater than ourselves, whatever you call it, God, mind, body, soul, superconscious, universe, whatever you decide to call it. I loved that.
Mm.
Because that idea, as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, as a coach, how can I practice every day to elevate that experience? So, what are you practicing? What are you practicing, Lisa?
Nothing.
Oh, get out of here.
Oh, I don't know.
I know
I-
that's not true.
I know too. It just sometimes I just do and don't put words to things. So,
Yeah.
but what I wanted to, go ahead, Suzanne.
I was just going to say, acknowledging that you are doing a lot of work on yourself.
I am. Yes,
Yeah.
I think I am. And I wanted to add a couple minutes ago about the structure and such. I was a nurse for like 32 years, and you've got your 8 hours, you come into the hospital, you come onto your shift. There is an 8-hour structure that is just built in, right? You go in, you get report, you go and say hello to your patients, you do your assessments, and then you get ready for the afternoon medications, and then comes supper, and you check in on your patient, and then comes the evening medications, then comes charting and whatever, and then the end of the day is other reports. So that's basically the core for the shift.
Mhm.
So there is that structure, and with that core, I always made sure that I recognize that core, and worked within that, so that if in nursing, crazy things happen on the, they just totally you can't predict it. But if you always have that core to return to, you can get through the 8 hours and maybe a little extra called overtime. And what I've noticed is that I don't have a core for my days. And I think that's what you see me go off on tangents a lot. And I have lots of thoughts, really good thoughts and ideas. And, but it turns, in hindsight and in present, many times it turns into just good things, good thoughts. Again, somebody mentioned follow through.
But you don't have that core to come back to.
I don't have that core to come back to. Each day can have its own, and they're looking ahead to the next day to create that core.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm hearing and realizing is something that I need to do more of. I need to do, period. Because my core right now is getting up, walking the dog, having my coffee when I walk the dog, maybe doing some stuff with the PQ things, and then taking care of the farm. But as far as the actual business, reaching out to people, doing productive things that are for the money part. Then at the end of the day, going back a little bit more habits and such, I quit TV about 10 years ago because I was watching way too much. It occupied my time. I would turn on a program that I intended to watch, and then I would end up keeping the TV on and running background, but the thing with TV is you have to sit and watch it. It's different from a radio or an audiobook. So I was fine for a while. Then I got a doggone computer. And in the last few years, I've had a computer for a while, but in the last few years, I've started with the YouTube, the movies. I like old movies, and I turn on a Audrey Hepburn movie, and it run into a John Wayne movie. And before you know it, at the end of the day, I've watched 3 movies, which is into 6 hours. And then I watched a couple last night. And I loved them, but I need to intentionally limit myself to one, maybe, and on a certain day of the week only, or 2 days out of the week. But maybe just start with one, but that's not going to work. It's not going to work. So, and I'm thinking, I have to find a way to allow that.
Yeah. Well, because it's fun, right?
But I'm not doing, I'm sacrificing business things, and I'm not doing a lot or even just getting the doggone sink cleaned up and washing the dishes. And so you have that structure and organization to your day. Vacuuming, I could be vacuuming, and I could be cleaning my environment and doing that wonderful thing for me, because when I do it, I'm like, I just love it. And I like to be in the kitchen. There's not the work that I avoid now. I leave the kitchen because do you know what I'm saying? I'm sure you do.
And, personally, as soon as you start talking about it, I said, well, coming back to that, the structure of the medical field, you and I have that in common. Every patient I had, it was the same routine over and over and over and over. The person was different, but the routine was the same. So after 25 years of the routine, I pretty much had it perfected.
Yeah.
That's why it got boring, because there was not a new challenge or a new learning. But the structure of it, I could go back to that structure, and it's been 13 years since I worked as a hygienist.
Yeah.
I still remember the damn structure.
But the job caused the structure to happen. You had no say about it. You had to, because there were certain things that were required.
Right, but I could have done them in any order I chose.
Oh, well, I suppose. Well, I couldn't, some of it, but so I didn't have to do the work for the core for a lot of it. So now I do. And
but part of getting your job done, so to speak, when you work for yourself, there could be a reward system in place. And the reward system is all your work's done, the house is clean, everything's ready. I had this incredible day. Now I get to sit down and watch a movie.
Just one.
Just one.
Just one. Yeah. Oh,
just one.
Yeah, just one. Yeah. Yeah. But the 2 I watched last night were so damn cute. Just that.
I love that.
I just have to write, if I see another one, I'll just write that down. Yeah, I can put that on my calendar for the one to watch the next day.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I'm not spending piles of money. I get the free with ads ones. I'm not spending. Credit card is not coming out on this one. So it's
good.
Free with ads. Yeah. They're actually really good.
Anybody else have a practice that they're working on?
I'm working to reestablish a habit. I for my entire adult life have been a great lover of going to the gym and working out. I enjoyed it immensely. And about 2 years, a little over 2 years ago, I experienced an injury that brought that to a halt. And about 6 months ago, I got the green light to go back to the gym. And have I?
Mm.
It has been surprisingly hard, surprisingly
Yes.
challenging to get myself back to that place. And
Yes.
so it's been on my mind the last couple of weeks. And I've been making steps in that direction. I've been getting up and
Oh,
walking
well,
in the
check out
morning.
that book Habits by
Yeah,
Charles Duhigg. I'll share the notes with
Thank you.
today's recording for the both of you. One of the concepts, and I can't remember whether it's in that book or Tiny Habits. Tiny Habits talks about habit stacking, I believe. You know, what can you attach together? And I always use the example brushing your teeth. Hopefully you're brushing your teeth twice a day. And when you do that, it's a great time to do your gratitude statements or your affirmations or say positive things about yourself, because you're already standing there brushing your teeth. So that can trigger you to remember to do that. Going to the gym, there's a lot of talk about laying your clothes out and, you know, making it a routine, making it part of your masterpiece day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, to that point, some days I'll stay at my home office and other days I'll come in to this office. And the days where I lay everything out beforehand, I know what I'm going to wear, I know what I'm going to take in, et cetera, and
Yeah.
I get everything ready to go. I get out the door faster.
Mhm.
When I don't do that, I'm always late. I'm always
Mm.
running around the last minute grabbing stuff. It happened yesterday. I get here at the desk. I say, I need to set the computer up. What computer? It's still sitting at home. I forgot to put it in my bag because it wasn't on my checklist.
Mhm.
Normally I would put it in the bag at the night before so that I didn't go down that rabbit hole in the morning that David was alluding to. So had to turn around, go get it. Big wasted chunk of time. So what did I do when I was in a car? I told 2 clients. I made use of my time in the car, right? Just
Yeah.
because I was so pissed off at myself for being so stupid about not putting it in my bag. So again, it's understanding what works for you and what doesn't
Yeah.
work for you. You have
Yeah.
to understand that everybody's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, I think that different piece is something you can't just copy someone else's morning routine or the structure of their calendar, or you have to do it in a way that feels authentic for you. And by doing that, you're more motivated to be the best version of yourself. Yeah. Be that hero of your story, right?
Yep.
That was the last big idea in the book, was being the hero. That heroes typically, they suffer, they have hard times, and they bounce back. And that's really what it's all about, is that the habit of bouncing back.
Yeah.
Or bouncing back better.
Or bouncing forward.
Bouncing forward.
Yeah, I think of Tigger bouncing. you know,
Oh,
so
I love Tigger. My dad's nickname was Eeyore. So if that gives you any idea of what I grew up with.
Wow.
He was
Christopher Robin.
great. He was great and so fun, my dad, and so funny. But he did have a little bit of the, oh dear, what are we gonna do now?
well, definitely his daughter's not anything like him.
No, I'm like my mother with the personality department.
There you go. So
Yeah.
complementary relationship, obviously.
Yes, my dad's athletic ability and my mom's outgoing personality. So good combination. All right, guys, any questions? Any ideas, insights from, are you ready to turn pro? David's already pro.
Now,
I think it
David,
was
Charlie's almost pro.
one of the things that, one of the big bonuses of getting to know Charlie Timmons is he's going to understand what I say when I ask him, where were you when President Kennedy was killed? Nobody else I relate to can understand this. And they go, what are you
Exactly
talking
right.
about? He and I
So-
can.
David, we were sitting, my wife was born in 1960. So we were sitting on the couch last night watching all the news reports about the Queen. And everybody says that, it's the only queen, it's the only monarch anybody ever knew. And I said, no, I knew her father. That kind of a thing, I prefer not to know her son, but I prefer, I knew her father.
No, I was gonna,
I can remember, sitting in my home, and sitting on the floor watching this black and white TV, had to adjust the rabbit ears.
rabbit
and
ears.
Get the horizontal and the vertical all set up, and you saw this, crowning of this young lady to be the Queen of England, right? And that was a huge event
Yeah,
that had an incredible amount of eyes on those screens doing
Yeah.
it, because it was the first time it was ever televised. It was recorded on film, but nobody ever saw it live in person, et cetera. And it was quite an event. But I just had to chuckle because I always keep reminding my wife I'm so much older than she is, and so I sort of dating myself, So
but it was funny because it was only about 10 years later, Charlie, that we watched TV for 4 days when Kennedy was killed. We just sat in front of the TV for 4 days, November 22nd, 1963. But I was going to add something, that the word that a lot of people are describing around these habits to me that describes a lot of this is discipline. What level of discipline do you have, and is it good, is it bad, and so on. And it at least occurred to me in my life experience, I thought, so when you grow up and you have your parents and they kind of tell you what to do, and then you go to school and the teachers tell you what to do, and then you get married or get a job, and then you have to do what your boss says. And so I went through all those progressions where I finally became my own boss about 10 years ago. And really, for the first time in my life, there was nobody keeping an eye on me. And there was, even when I was a store manager at Nordstrom, there was the general manager of the 10 stores. So he's, Dave, what are you working on today? How's the store doing? And so I understand that sometimes when, even at 72 years old, I sometimes go, I think I'm going to go watch TV for like 10 minutes. And I don't have to ask anybody. And I think, but
Like
then,
you're being bad, doesn't it?
then the rabbit hole, and it's interesting. I've really gotten into YouTube. And so I totally understand this thing about the rabbit hole and the binge watching. But one of the big things is I've got, I don't know, 1900 videos on YouTube. The biggest thing that I never really understood about YouTube, the key to the whole thing is your thumbnail. And the content itself, how long it is, all the other kind of stuff is fine. It's important, but there's nothing quite like, and I'm watching YouTube on my big TV out there, and then it goes, such and such, oh, I got to watch that. Oh, geez, look, it shows the picture of this or whatever. And there's the rabbit hole. And then that one's done. And then they got to suggest, oh, this one looks interesting. I think, you get back in your office. You have work to do. It's funny how it grabs you and won't let you go.
Yeah, and I'm listening to Lisa tell us, and Lisa looks at the dishes in the sink, and she said, I can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because, I know that if I were single and I didn't have anybody else living with me, et cetera, I may not be as disciplined as I am, but I'm disciplined out of courtesy of my partner,
Yeah.
So I know that when she wakes up in the morning and comes out of the bedroom, if the kitchen is clean and all her dirty dishes that she dumped in the sink, Lisa, the night before, her husband is cleaned up and put away, I just know that makes her feel like $1 million.
Yeah, that's nice.
So that's part of the discipline and the expectation of other people for you. But when you don't have anybody holding you accountable, and Suzanne, that's one of the benefits that you bring to the table, is that you hold people accountable. And if people aren't being held accountable, the likelihood of their success is lower. And if you are successful and you are by yourself, it's because of what David says, you have tremendous self-discipline to be
Yeah.
able to make sure that, you know, the important things, Lisa, it's not how much you get done, it's the progress you make.
Yeah,
That's the important factor. People do a
Yeah.
lot of things and nothing happens. They're still in the mud spinning their wheels. We're not working on the
Yeah.
right things to make the progress. You make progress, that's an energizer. That gets you going. See what happens? It's sort of like we get so busy doing different things and then we remember, oh, I haven't weighed myself lately. And we get on the scale and we lost 5 pounds. You say, oh my God, this is fantastic. I'm going to reward myself with some ice cream. Anyway, that's the lack of self-discipline
Yeah.
that instead of saying, I'm going to build on this, I'm really going to, you know, layer this up so that things get me to the next level. Anyway, great point, David. Great point.
well, I remember, Charlie, with the roommate thing, in the cleaning, when I had a roommate, when I was in college and and yeah, basically that's when I had my roommate. I was very, very neat. I was out of respect for my roommate. I had the apartment and I brought people in and I had set some rules, things like no personal items in the common area. When you come in from your classes and you go take all your book bags, go to your personal space, not in the common area. Things are cleaned up within 24 hours in the
Mhm.
kitchen. And that was never a problem for anyone. Bills are paid 2 days after they're received in the mail, that kind of thing. And I was very together because I strongly believe that I couldn't ask people to do any things if I didn't do them, so, and then, but now I'm by myself and I have to value of myself the part that I know
Yes.
it feels better when the structure in the house is less cluttered. And I have to value myself more to not put things off until tomorrow, because sometimes that tomorrow turns into the next tomorrow when tomorrow comes.
Mhm.
And I think I need to, because I know how much more organized and the anxiety decreases and when things are done and certain things are in their place. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not an OCD person that way.
No, but
However,
that's the what's that Marie Kondo book, you know, the
Yep.
magic art of tidying up
Right.
and everything being organized. It speeds up your day. You know, if you have to dig through a drawer to find a pair of underwear or dig through a drawer to find a pair of socks, or, you know, your clothes aren't ironed or whatever you need to do, right? If it's all done before that, because you've put order in it. And the same goes for our business, for sure.
It's funny. I gave my wife that book for Christmas
Mm-hmm.
and she opened the book up and she says, okay, what's this mean? What's the message here? And so what she did is she read it and she took it to heart and she started organizing things, etc. Now she does it for her friends.
Really?
Like, a lot of her friends are pack rats and they're a mess.
Uh-huh.
And she'll go over and she'll start helping them do it to develop the habit,
Well, that's
to
awesome.
get them moving in the thing. And
Oh.
plus it gives her time with them. And
Yeah.
they're always talking and what's important, what isn't important. And
It's
one
wonderful.
of her friends even, bought her dinners and gave her money because it really was something that she kept procrastinating on. Because again, she was a single
Yeah.
woman and didn't have anybody to really hold her accountable.
Yeah. Well, I
So-
love it. Well, that's a wrap for today, guys. Thanks for awesome conversation. I'm going to hit stop recording.